Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast. Let's take it up a notch. That's what we do around here. Joined by the boss, Saul Bookman. Hello, Saul Bookman.
What's going on, Mike? How are you doing today?
Not too bad, not too bad.
We should change the motto of the show.
What's that?
We should say, we should change it to, don't tell no lies about me, and I won't tell no truth about you.
Truth about you, man. Seriously. Oh, that was awesome last night.
Kendrick.
That was very, very good, especially too when you called me this morning. Maybe the coolest thing, having the crowd finish your bars for you.
That was pretty dope. That was a great hour and a half spent last night for sure.
Rabbit hole goes deep. It can go further, I promise. Just saying. So, all right. But Saul Bookman, you have your GM hat on today. Anything going on in the PHNXville?
Yeah, we got to come out to this chicken and pickle tonight. Fantastic trivia. We have about 72 people signed up. We got multiple teams of 4. The Discord's been popping off, talking trash to other sports. So it's going to be fun tonight. Come out, answer some trivia questions. It's all sports trivia. So it should be a fun time.
Going to be a good time. Absolutely. We'll get back to that. Now, we're going to focus heavily on Arizona in-state basketball recruiting here. Going to be up at Section 7 Friday and Saturday all day. And I'm going to be hanging out with Frank Caliendo. But, Saul, this is a lot different. I wanted to talk a little bit again. Normally, I just razz you about the free throws, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about just growing up in Phoenix before we get to this, because I think it's important to talk about where we came from. When I was growing up watching and you were playing, obviously, basically every third or fourth year, there was a dude in state somewhere that was good enough to go to the University of Arizona. And you look at it, it goes from, obviously Sean to Bibby to RJ to Fry to Bayless, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This has changed. Now, we're not just talking about kids that are, the Aitons. I don't count them. I'm talking about homegrown kids that come in and out. This has changed, and we're going to go through a lot of them. What have you seen, obviously, there on the Valley, and what has changed, obviously, since you were playing?
Well, honestly, the AAU stuff has just neutralized everything to a large extent. People realize that they don't have to be stuck in some other state. They can come out and they can live in Arizona. And I think because more people have come to Arizona that understand. So back in my day, and this sounds weird to say that when I'm, 44, but when I was growing up, there was this large contingent of kids and athletes that almost felt like it was disrespectful to have to play in Arizona for whatever reason, even though they lived here. Right. And they glorified like other states so much, like Chicago and Philly and New York, like, oh, those are the real ballers and those are the real ballers. And I'm like, well, okay, well, maybe you just aren't good enough, point blank. Like if you can't compete here, then what makes you think you could compete against those guys, Right. So I never felt like that. I always had pride about Arizona because I could give 2 shits about another state or another city. And I think that dynamic has changed. Like Arizona has become a legit place to grow and live and play basketball and football. And it's grown leaps and bounds since I was even in high school. And you have top prospects across the country, our top programs across the country that are recruiting Arizona kids because they're good. And a lot of AAU tournaments are here in Arizona as well. The Nike EYBL is one of them, all the way out there on the east side. So that's the biggest shift. It used to be a BCI, was Basketball Congress International, was the major tournament across the country. And that's obviously shifted to more EYBL and AAU stuff. And I think that's had the biggest profound effect.
And you can just look at some local high schools here. And again, we're talking about players that are kind of, I guess, for lack of a better term, indigenous to Arizona. I want to keep saying that. I don't want somebody saying, well, what about Ayton when I don't mention Ayton? That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about players that are, just looking back at Del Sol just a few years ago. We talked about that before. When you had Marvin Bagley, who to this day, I've never seen anything like him as a freshman in high school. I thought that you were looking at LeBron James 2.0. I was wrong, obviously. Yeah. But then you got Saban Lee. Then you got Alex Barcelo. Then now we're looking at Gilbert Perry. You got Jalen Williams, who's about to sign a $150 million extension. His brother Cody Williams is about to be drafted in the lottery. You got Dylan Anderson. You got Koa Peat, who we're going to talk about. You got Bruce Branch coming up as well. These are all kids, Saul, that are born, or if they're not born, they were raised in Arizona. That just didn't happen back in the day. Like, Mike Bibby, we talk about on the show all the time. I saw him at the BCI for the first time as a sophomore. He was such a unicorn, and he would still be a unicorn, but now there's actual competition, not just Lamont Long for him to go against.
Yeah, absolutely. It's unbelievable what's really happened, and it just kind of all of a sudden it just happened. Like it wasn't like
Right.
all of a sudden like there was this push or there was this marketing play or anything like that here in the state. It was just these kids just knew that growing up in Arizona is a pretty good spot to play in. You got everything at your fingertips. You can travel just about anywhere out of Sky Harbor. Like, and so a lot of families have moved here and their kids as a result, just kind of like, listen, like there's a movement in Arizona that, we're trying to help be a part of. That new generation of kids that were born here in Arizona that now rep the Cardinals or rep the Suns or rep ASU or whatever, because they don't know what Chicago's all about and they don't know what New York is all about, no matter what mom and dad say. I think that's part of this, and it's okay to have pride in your home. And I think a lot of kids, now that you see them out there, they're not bashful about saying, yeah, I'm from Arizona. Like, yeah, we rep, we ball. Like, that's what we do.
Another guy from Del Sol I forgot about, Dalen Terry as well. So, I mean, again, just another one you got to just keep in mind. Obviously went to Hillcrest, but went to Del Sol before. Now, we're going to start talking about players here that we're going to break down left and right. Now, listen, we talked a lot about Koa Peat on this show. We'll talk more about Koa Peat, but he's not going to be at Section 7. Cam Holmes, though, this is a very interesting one. So, a little bit of background here. His brother, Deron Holmes, if you watched the Dayton game, you're well aware of who he is. Another kid out of Traden Stukes' neck of the woods, by the way. Saul Bookman correctly admonished me for not bringing him up the other day. But the Deron Holmes, I'll give you a little bit of an insight on the previous staff. One of their regrets was that they didn't get in on Deron Holmes early. They thought that they could kind of get on him late and they would be able to get him. As well, Deron Holmes turned out to be, he's going to be a first round pick. I've seen him on a lot of different mocks. This coaching staff is not doing that with his little brother, Cam Holmes. And if we could get to some of the highlights, Saul, you're a basketball expert. Tell me just kind of what you see when you watch this young man right here.
Yeah, this kid gives me Stacey Augmon vibes. Yeah. And if you don't know much about Stacey Augmon, a lefty, kind of an unorthodox kind of style of play to a certain degree, especially when you look at his jump shot, it comes off of his shoulder a little bit more than most. So that's something he's going to have to tweak. But he's long, he's athletic. He's a really good, solid player for Millennium. Led him all the way to the state championship. I believe they won the state championship, if I'm not correct.
Correct.
And so like he's a good all around player. And the thing that really stood out about him to me was the fact that he is just very passionate. He loves to play ball. He gets into these games. Just a terrific all around player. I would argue that he will end up being better than his brother because he has an all around game. He's a really good player.
He's a perimeter player where his brother was always going to be a four-man that was going to have to be able to show some that he could transition to the perimeter to a certain extent. And he pretty much successfully did that. But Saul, this dude's a guy that the ball is going to be in his hands. I'm also very biased towards left-handers. Let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a left-handed player get their shot blocked?
Ooh, I probably have at some point.
I know, I'm sure you have, but the point is, when you think about it,
yeah, it's rare. It's rare.
It's very, very rare. So this kid, though, is really, really good. He's going to be there. He is he's been in the top 15 in his class for the last 2 years or so. People have known about him. I believe
he's ranked third in his class according to 247 right now. I would venture to guess that as he continues to grow and fill out his body, he's going to continue to grow up those rankings. And maybe he might not overcome the other two that we'll talk about here in the state, but nationally, I definitely think he's going to grow.
I very much like two kids that have been through the process with no real, like Deron Holmes, let's use an example. Went to Dayton, spent his 3 or 4 years there, got better, went off to the NBA. You can say the same thing kind of like with Jalen Williams. What I'm always worried about too is a little bit of the sideshow. If you've got somebody that is like a Bagley, for example, that thing was with ASU, that thing was a train wreck from get. I already have a blueprint now on how this family probably is going to handle this. Again, it's always different, but that always makes me feel a little bit better as well when I know that they've been through this. This isn't new to them. And when they were through it before, it didn't seem like a helicopter type parent situation. That's always something that kind of sticks in the back of my head a little bit, Saul.
Helicopter parent is a good way to put it. I don't want to besmirch any parent for doing what they think is in the best interest of the kid. If it's genuinely in the best interest of the kid, that's that's my pause is like, are you doing this for the kid, or is this your moment to shine that you're trying to take advantage of?
Right.
And unfortunately, in today's day and age with NIL and all the other side money that's probably going around AAU, some of these people don't have the best of interests when it comes to the kid. They want him to succeed because it means more money for them. With these kids and with Deron Holmes' family, if you know much about them, if you talk to anybody about them, they definitely have a solid mentality, very stable. They just want the best for their kids.
Right.
And you can kind of see that with Deron, the way he speaks, the way he holds himself, carries himself. Same thing now with this young man.
Yeah. Okay. Now, another one, we're going to hop all over the place here because there's a lot of different guys. And one thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I don't think that a couple of years ago, I think it was a little bit of a learning experience for Tommy Lloyd. And it's not because I'm involved in this. His learning experience was probably to stay away from him. But he was telling me that and Sherry, he's like, we believe that we can pretty much get any player that we need at any point. We're the University of Arizona. Well, the Cody Williams thing didn't really play out that way. Went to obviously a different thing. But if you look at it now, and again, I'm just joking, it had nothing to do with me. But if you look at it now, he's offering kids very, very early in the class. They're getting on kids very early. Now, another kid that I want to talk about being on very, very early is the next one in these Gilbert Perry types. This is a Bruce Branch, 2027 kid, father and grandfather played in the NFL. He's an interesting story. So he's already about 6'5". He's grown 3 or 4 inches in the past year, still growing into his body. But Saul, when you watch this young man, you can tell that for being a young sophomore to be, there's a lot to like.
1,000,000%. What I love is he's going to continue the tradition of, good players that come out of Compton Magic. If you remember, right now they're recruiting another kid from the Compton Magic in Arenas.
Yep.
And then, but before that, they've had Dalen Terry played for Compton Magic. Dave York played for Compton Magic. So they have a good relationship with that program. This kid, very solid. I love his form on his jumper. That's the one thing that stood out immediately when I saw him. I like how he always has a solid base. I love the way that his release at the top of his arc or his jump. It's just, I think everything about him is already pretty polished in terms of his shooting technique. So now it's everything else that needs to be worked on, right? The physicality, it just his overall game. Tommy Lloyd, listen, this kid could come in immediately on day one and he's going to be a shooter. Like he's going to be a consistent shooter from day one. And so that if you can already pencil him in for one specific thing, like you're already way ahead of the game, because a lot of these kids, they're good, but they're not great at any one particular thing because they're still trying to learn themselves. But this kid, already very good at shooting. I love what he's going to bring to the table if he does sign with Arizona at some point in terms of the shot.
And something we need to talk about too a little bit here. I always get people, because I think in highlights, the people can get lost in, he's not dunking, he's not doing this and that. When you're a young kid and you're 14, 15 years old and you are going through a growth spurt, you are not going to be athletically where you are when you are done with that thing. I mean, especially too, if you're going from like 5'11" to 6'3", 6'4", you could be dealing with shin splints. You can be dealing with a lot of different things. That's something to also keep in mind too, Saul.
I actually don't give a shit about dunking.
Agreed.
I more want to see, okay, cool. You get the wide open lane and you go dunk. What does that prove? Like, cool. You got some bounce. You got some athleticism. Well, we wouldn't be recruiting you if you didn't have athleticism in the first place. Right. So what else can you do? What are the intangibles? What is your technique? What do your fundamentals look like? That's what I want to see. So every time I pop on some of these highlight tapes, I almost speed right through the dunks because I don't give a shit. Unless you yak on somebody, then I'll probably watch that a couple times. That's fun. But outside of that, I want to see your all-around game. How are you going to benefit U of A? Because damn well you're not getting 10 dunks a game in the NCAA. So what else are you going to be able to do? And I like what I see from him.
I'm always far more interested too in how you finish in traffic. What is your bag at that point? Do you have the floater? Do you have the ability to do, I don't want to compare him to Michael Jordan, but to act like you're going up and then to be able to finish on your way down? What kind of skill level do you have at that point? Because like you said, I don't care about the dunk and nobody.
And I'm glad you brought that up because the top kid, in my opinion, that we'll talk about in a second, he's got quite the bag that I love when you're talking about getting to the rim.
Right. All right. Now, another one that is very familiar with people that we know a lot about from his days at ASU and his son. Let's talk a little bit about Kaden House. He's got another brother as well, but this is the one right here. Kaden House is a kid. He's now transferred. He's going to be going to Compass. Saul, what do you see in this young man?
Yeah, again, he's a little bit different than his brothers. Or his dad and Jalen, because his game is a little bit more. It's not as volatile from the outside, if you will, right? He's also taller than most of those other guys. I think he is the tallest one in the family. He's got a little bit more athleticism than the other guys in his family. So from that skill set, you like what you see. He's athletic. He's growing into his body. The outside shot is something that I'm going to look forward to improve. And I mean, if he's a House, I mean, as much as we might not like an ASU Sun Devil, like we just know that it's built in their DNA. Both father and son previously were good shooters, and now you add this kid to the mix. I like what I see. Again, the development, and I would just love for Eddie House. Listen, I would love for Eddie House to have to root for the University of Arizona, because I still remember, Eddie, when you sat next to me at the Pac-12 tournament in 2016 and you said Arizona was overrated and this Lowry Marketing kid is not that good. I was like, you're crazy. And then, he was clearly wrong about that.
You know an Eddie House story that enough time has passed and enough people have talked about it that I feel comfortable talking about?
Sure.
This is back in 1999. He and AJ Bramlett got into it outside of a team hotel, and AJ leveled him. He'll be honest about it. Kyle Dodd and I have talked about it on the show as well. AJ's talked about it on the show as well. So
I can't really talk too much shit, because I told you the other day where I would sneak into ASU's facility and just play, like, because they just had the door open.
Right.
So anybody could just walk in and play. And I would shoot around all the time. And one day I walked in and they were scrimmaging and somebody got hurt. And it was Eddie House. It was G. Gervin. Gervin was there. Yeah. And so they were like, we need one to run. It was me and my two friends, and they weren't like high level basketball players. So I jumped on the court and I had to guard Eddie House. Yeah, I got cooked. I got so cooked.
Eddie House to me is kind of the ASU version, and they're a little bit different, but he's kind of the ASU version of Salim Stoudemire.
Yes.
If I was an ASU fan, Eddie House would be my all-time favorite player. It wouldn't be Harden. It wouldn't be anybody. It would be Eddie House. That would be my all-time favorite player. Something to keep in mind too with Eddie House. A lot of people don't know this. You know who he's married to, right, Saul?
No.
Really? This really surprises me. Mike Bibby's sister.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so again, so keep in mind, U of A blood is in this young man right here. So keep that in mind. Not a lot of people know that. So when people think Eddie House, talk about a friendly rivalry in the House Bibby household.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
So yeah, that's but no, that's going to be an interesting one. ASU is obviously all over him. We'll obviously let people know, how that goes. Now, a kid that we've talked about a lot on this show, and I believe that he is going to end up being one of the top. Arizona's going to be in his final three. Koa Peat. I wanted to get your take on him. He's not going to be at Section 7, but I feel that anytime we do talk about, in-state recruiting, we've got to talk about the elephant in the room. Have you seen Koa in the high school setting? I have not yet. Right.
I got a glimpse of him, but I haven't watched a full game of his.
I'm very curious what you think, because everybody talks about, obviously he's physically imposing and this and that. But what's interesting for me, especially for the only one that's really played basketball at the highest of level, is just how easily the game comes to him. And when you're a 6'8", 210 power forward and you continue to stay in that top 5 realm in a loaded class, mind you, you have more going for you than just being able to bully kids and having athleticism. There's always an aspect to his game. I'm excited for you to see him when you get a chance, Saul. I think you're going to be very impressed.
No, I'm excited to see a whole game of his too. He is a big kid. I have seen him. Right. I just have never seen him play for more than maybe a basket or two. So I'm excited to see him. I do have a couple games slated this high school season to go watch. One of them being Perry against Basha. They're right down the street from each other, like not even 2 miles apart. It's that should be a fun game because there's a prospect from Basha as well that we're going to talk about. But listen, Koa Peat is listen, his rep speaks for itself. He's a big dude. He's growing. What I love about Koa Peat, though, from what I've heard around from everybody, is he continues to work on his game and work on the things that he's not very good at. And in today's day and age, you can't really bully ball to the degree that you could, back in, even my time, because, people are going to take charges. People are going to flop, those kind of things. Koa's figured that out and tried to navigate those spaces. You have to be nimble. And Koa Peat is nimble for a guy that big.
All right. Now, Rick Barrett's asking about Elijah Arenas, who, by the way, did very, very well at the U17. I know you always say Gilbert's Arenas' son could go anywhere, and you wouldn't be surprised. But why doesn't Gilbert push him towards Arizona? I'm not saying that he won't. I'm just saying that with Gilbert, there is no feel around the U of A program for what he's doing. And that's just kind of what I go with. If the U of A felt that they were going to get him, I would tell you that. If they didn't, then nobody knows. I mean, and Gilbert marches to the beat of his own drummer, Saul. I mean, we've seen that up close. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I've heard so many stories about Gilbert, courtesy of one of the guys I used to work with back in the day at Fox Sports Arizona, who was the SID there. He had stories upon stories. And if you mention Gilbert Arenas around this man, he might have an aneurysm. So listen, I don't know what Gilbert's relationship is with U of A. I don't know how, if it's burned or not. I don't think it is, but
he and Murph are on good terms. Murph's his lead recruiter for his son, for sure.
Good. So that's good.
Yeah. Now, but again, he could also see in Bear Down Cats 96 says Gilbert wants his son to go to the G League. He said it on the podcast. He said, I quote, "You're going to pay my son $1 million and he still has to go to class." The problem is that the G League's not really an option anymore. The like the G League Ignite and whatnot, that's not really a thing anymore. So we'll like I said, if I knew anything, I'd let you guys know. The one thing go ahead.
But also you're probably going to make more money not going to the G League than you do going.
He's a $1 million player. He's a top 3, top 4 player. And that's the other thing I tell people too, is that, when it comes to getting paid, if he goes to the highest bidder, that won't be Arizona. Arizona's not going to be able to outbid some schools. They can pay you well, but they can't pay you like some schools that could give you $2 million. That's just kind of the way it is.
Can we talk about Ikenna?
Let's talk about him right now. That was my next one up there. What do you got, Saul Bookman?
Dude, I love this kid. I love this kid.
Ikenna Olozi, 2026 Dream City. Arizona's got a good connection there. Go ahead.
Also, okay, so if you look at his tape from last year to this year, you can immediately see two things. First, he got a little bit more chiseled, lost a little bit of the baby fat, and so he looks more college ready already at this point. He's physical. The two other things that I love, he has worked on his game to where he could finish with either hand. He can hit the floater. He can hit the jump shot. And the best thing about him is the suddenness. Right. You don't know what he's about to do at any given moment. You don't know if he's going to try and blow past you or if he's going to hit you with a quick pull-up. His shot is very good. He's a scorer. Like, dude, he is my favorite person in this class by leaps and bounds. I love this kid.
You know what you really notice about him too, and I was fortunate enough to see him this past year once. And I think this is what you're talking about, to piggyback. Quick twitch. I mean, you just talk about quick twitch, and quick twitch is something that you can't. I mean, you know this, Saul. You can't coach quick twitch. You either have that one or you don't. You have that ability. This kid's got that ability in spades. I love this kid. Keep in mind too, obviously, TJ Benson on the U of A staff, father there has a very, very close connection, obviously, with Dream Christian. So we will see. Arizona's going to be following him around all weekend, though. So we will see. Now, getting back to, man, this is fun talking about in-state kids. Now, technically, he's not an in-state kid, but we will let it pass.
No, he's been playing in the East Coast quite a bit, but I do believe he's going to play here this season, yeah?
Yes, he is. Yep, absolutely. Now, let's talk about Basha, your neck of the woods. By the way, real quick, Damon Williams, I just wanted off topic a little bit. What do you see from Damon Williams, ex-U of A quarterback? He's at Washington now. What kind of college player do you think he's going to be? Just totally off topic since we're at Basha.
Honestly, I don't know. I watched him play about 3 or 4 different games in high school, one of them being his junior year, I believe, when they got upset by Liberty. And I don't know what to expect. Yeah, he's a good athlete. He's a great athlete. But I don't know if he's going to be able to throw the ball at the high enough level that you're going to need when you get to the big dogs, like at UW. So I'm not saying he can't. I just don't know. And that's the unpredictability of a lot of these young freshman quarterbacks that join these programs. You don't know what's going to happen. He doesn't have, I would say this. He's not a scrambler. He doesn't look to scramble. He does like to stay in the pocket and throw when he has the opportunity, if he knows what's about to happen.
Right.
But in terms of the height, the athleticism, the ability to get the ball down the field, I didn't see the downfield pushing as much as I would have liked to. So he's kind of up in the air for me. I hope the kid does well. Bash a product. I love the local kids. I want them all to succeed. So I'm rooting for the kid. I just don't know if he's going to play a lot this year.
Okay, so now, speaking of Basha, Mason McGee. I have never seen Mason McGee. I am very excited to see Mason McGee. What say you, Saul Bookman? I have never seen him. What do you think? Again,
a nice little jumper, nice little flow to his shot. Still growing. I think the last time they took his measurables, I think he's 6 feet tall at the time. So he's not a tall kid by any stretch of the imagination, but he started for Basha as a sophomore. They played in some big games, Koa Peat and Perry being one of them. And he did very well. So he's a good, solid kid all the way around. Good guard. I don't know if he's going to end up transitioning to be a 2 or if he's going to try to run point. Right now, based on Bash's system, it looked like he did a little bit of both, but mostly he shot. He was kind of a scorer. So we'll see.
Now, Bear Down Cats 96. No, Saul Bookman has been very. I'm big on Damon Williams. I think he's going to be really good. Saul Bookman has been very good, consistent. Even when he was committed to the U of A, he said, "I don't know quite what to expect." So Saul isn't going all over the place, and I think he's going to be good. We will find that out. Bear Down Cats, watch your mouth. Be very nice in here. We expect more. All right, now let's see here. Oh, now a guy that now we're going to hop around here a little bit because I got a couple.
Like when I saw Damon Williams, I didn't look at him and say, can't miss quarterback. And you can go back to any time we've ever talked about Damon Williams.
You've been very consistent from day one, for sure.
Yeah, he's kind of confusing to me. Just my eye looking at him, I don't know what to expect. And I don't think me not knowing what to expect is disrespectful to him.
Here's a 5'9" quarterback. I mean, with a 5'9" quarterback, a lot of times you don't know what to expect. I totally get it. Now a player that is not in state, but Saul Bookman thought he was in state. Saul Bookman was using his connections to see if this player was in state. He is not. Saul Bookman, would you like to tell this story? It's a very good, funny story. I was laughing when you told me this.
So I didn't know much about Xavier Staten. And so I was like, okay, well, let me do my homework. And Mike sends me the list of the guys we're going to talk about today. And I see Xavier Staten, and I was just like, oh, it says Sierra Vista. And I was just like, oh. I was like, he goes to school down in Sierra Vista? I was like, what the hell? So I call my son, who's a junior at Buena High School in Sierra Vista. It's the only high school down there.
Right.
And so I call him, and I'm like, hey, tell me about Xavier Staten. He was like, who? I was like, Xavier Staten's like getting recruited by all these big teams. He's just like, Dad, there's not a single player on our basketball team that's getting recruited by anybody big time. And I was just like, oh, so then I looked him up and I was just like, oh man, Sierra Vista, Nevada. Okay,
right,
cool.
Exactly. So, but this is a guy that Arizona, it's between Arizona and UNLV for him. He's going to be up at Section 7 as well. We've talked about him before. Saul, I am very much of the belief that I always recruit one shot blocker per class because and that's where I'm at. Emmanuel Stephen is that shot blocker in this class. And they don't have to be an elite kid. They don't have to be a top 20 kid. They can be a top 100 kid because I think what happens when you get a shot blocker and you hit on them, they are a total game changer on both sides of the court. Especially
you've asked me, you break down this kid's game? What do you think about him?
He can move really, really well. What I always look for in 7-footers is this. I look for two things because I can deal with the rest. What is your timing like when it comes to blocking shots? Give you an example. DeAndre Ayton was never going to be able to block a lot of shots. That's just not really in his game. He didn't really have, that wasn't his thing. Lauren Woods could always block shots. This kid, or Christian Coloco, it was natural for him to block shots. I look at that, and I look at your hands. Besides the athleticism, because a big man with bad hands, generally you can work on it, but you're generally going to have problems being able to secure the ball. This guy's got both of those. He's got timing and he's got hands and he can move. That's all you need. That's all I need, in my opinion. I need if I got a 7-footer that's got timing, can move, and he's got hands, Saul, I can deal with all of the rest. Those are a couple things that I think are difficult to be able to teach.
Yeah, I think at any position in any sport, if you have bad hands, you're not going to make it, especially if you're a big. And I've never understood that. I just don't. How do you have bad hands in basketball? I can't even comprehend it. Like what?
I've never understood it. And the one thing too is like look at Caleb Tarczewski. Caleb Tarczewski was always going to have mediocre hands. He was always going to not bad hands necessarily. He could finish, but it was never natural the way it was with some other players. And when it's not natural, you have to gather. Sometimes you fumble the ball, and you know this. I mean, you played. When you're dealing with a split second to be able to finish before that help side defender comes there, it makes a world of difference, especially if you're looking to keep it high. I like the kid a great deal. I think he's going to, if Arizona gets him, which he is, which I believe that they will get him, I think that is going to be a very nice thing. Now, let's see here. Palmer Hoffman, P-Hoff, says, what are Emmanuel Stevens' minutes going to look like? I think there's a good chance he's going to redshirt this year. I think with
which is smart.
Yeah, which is smart. Exactly. They're all on the same page as far as you've already got. Obviously, you've got Trey Townsend's going to play 28 minutes per game. You got Mount Crevis. You've also got Tobe Awaka. Those minutes are kind of spoken for. Plus, you got Henry Vasar in there as well, who they're going to try to get some minutes to. As long as he's cool, I'm going to be cool with that. Go, Glenn. Look at this. Glenn is saying how another 7-foot bust like Ayton and Tarczewski. How is Ayton a bust? Ayton was a first-team All-American. Ayton was better in college than any player that ever went to ASU. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say.
Again, that's everybody wants to talk about Buffalo. Every single time they bring up DeAndre Ayton, Buffalo. Like, I could give two shits about Buffalo. Like, DeAndre Ayton was dominant. Like, yeah, okay, they had a bad game, like a really bad game against Buffalo, sure. But to say a bust, come on, man. Not for U of A. You might want to talk about Suns, cool, whatever. Right. But not U of A. You're not an all-American conference player of the year and labeled bust.
First team AP All-American as well. There aren't a lot of those. Come on, Glenn, you're better than that. We expect more from that. But also one thing before we get back into some of these names, because I want to talk about Tounde Yessoufou. Saul Bookman, very, very much into Tounde. We will be following Tounde around this entire time. But Chicken and Pickle again. This is tonight. You need to get in on this. This is going to be a trivia night unlike any other. If you're an Arizona sports fan, Saul Bookman, what is going on there at Chicken and Pickle?
Trivia. You just said it all.
Mm-hmm. I feel very good about it.
To say.
Hey, Mike, you're coming, right?
I feel very, very good about it.
Are you coming, Mike?
I have to drive up Friday and Saturday to Phoenix. I will probably not be in attendance. Plus, Jacob Franklin told me I couldn't sit with him, which is not very happy. I'm not very happy about this. Not very happy about this, Jacob Franklin.
I guess he doesn't like anybody else that works here. So,
we just got something pretty cool from the Diamondbacks.
What'd you get?
Bring it. Let me see it.
What do you see? Talk to me.
Wait, I got you. Carry around with your Chicken and Pickle ad there.
Let me see this.
Mike, look at this. Look at this bad boy.
Look at that. That is nice. Ooh.
Look at that.
Oh, that is sexy.
That is pretty cool. Thanks,
Diamondbacks,
for hooking us up, man.
That is very, very nice. Is that the great Derek that just came?
That is the great Captain Caveman himself, Derek Montilla.
The mayor. I will never forget the funny story about when the announcer thought that he was actually the mayor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was one of the funniest things because I was actually watching that when it happened.
Apple TV.
Yes, Apple TV, my friends. Check it out, though. Head on over to Chicken and Pickle and see all the fun you can have at the Glendale location. Glenn, maybe you go over there since it's in Glendale. Very funny, very funny. Did you know that I had a friend growing up and his name was Glendale Williams? Like his middle name was Dale. Very stupid. Nobody cares, but it makes me laugh every time I hear it. So that's all right. Now, Saul, Tounde Yessoufou. He is out of all the players at this 2025. He is a priority. In 2025, there's 4 players that are priorities for Arizona: Braden Burries, Tounde Yessoufou, Xavion Staton, and who am I drawing a blank on? Koa Peat. Duh. The most obvious one. But Saul, Tounde, we've talked about him before. A man. Arizona has been on him the longest. What do you see from him? What do you like most about Tounde Yessoufou?
I feel like we're recruiting a bunch of men.
Yes, we are.
Because Tounde is not a small guy,
right?
Athletic, big, he's a good player. There's nothing to not like about Tounde. He's got a good game. He's a solid defender. He can score around the rim, working on the shot. I don't know what else you could say.
Yeah.
This is what you want if you're looking at prospects. These guys, man, listen, if they were somehow able to secure 3 of these 4, that's a hell of a recruiting class. And it's also a big recruiting, literally a big recruiting class. I
believe that I'm gonna go on record and say I believe that they will get 3 of those 4. I'm gonna say it right now.
That's incredible.
Yep, exactly. Now, let's see here. 5 of a Kind Media. No, Tounde is going to play the small forward position. He is that it doesn't have anything to do with Koa Peat. Totally different player. So we will definitely keep you. We'll definitely keep you up to date on that.
You talked about the biggest difference between now and back in the day. Back in the day, I don't remember a single kid that I ever met that I looked at. I'm like, dude, you look like a grown ass man.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right.
These kids look like grown ass men.
Right. Exactly.
Jesus.
It's insane. And when you did see somebody, Michael Wright's an interesting different player. But when Michael Wright hit campus, it was where the heck did this guy come from? It was just such an anomaly that you just didn't see players like that.
Willie Daniel was the only player that I ever played against that I felt like he was like a grown ass man. He ended up playing safety for ASU. Willie Daniel back in the day, and he was yoked. Right. And I remember playing against him in the quarterfinals, and he put his hand on my back, and I couldn't move. Right. He was that strong. I was like, dude, what the hell? And I was like, why are you a 34-year-old man out here playing fucking basketball against teenagers, man? Go to the bench.
Right. And they always have these big bear claws, these big hands that basically can just keep you at bay, because they know that if Saul Bookman gets to the free throw line, that thing's automatic. So you better keep him away from there.
I still had 18 against him. I don't care.
Yes. And then Braden Burries, obviously a guard as well. We talk about on the show pretty much every day. He will be there. He is a top priority for Arizona as well. Braden Burries might be the best guard in the class. He's one of the handful of best guards in the class. Been very much looking forward to following him around. I will be getting his itinerary here shortly. Okay, now, Saul Bookman, I wanted to transition over to a little bit of football as well.
Yeah, let's do it. We got a little bit of some recruiting news.
We got some recruiting news, we got some very good recruiting news, but let's talk about Robert McDaniel first. This is a quarterback I think a lot of people are not necessarily giving the love that he probably should get. He just had a very nice performance at a camp, and this is somebody they prioritize very early on. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he eventually becomes a 4-star kid. Saul, what do you see in this young man?
Compact release, nice down the field ball. He could look. He's throwing it off his back foot right there with some nice zip. I agree with you, Mike. I think there might be some people that are sleeping on it, because if you're looking at this, just look at the arm strength. Out of different positions, different pockets, different techniques, different sets, he is rifling the ball in there. Right. And that's what you want to see. That's top tier arm talent right there. And so that's what I like about this kid.
Look at that one right there too. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've seen kids like this before. Don't get me wrong. It's not like, he's some unicorn or anything like that. That's why he's rated 3 stars right now. But I agree with you, Mike. I think that there's a very real scenario where he ends up being 4 stars and he ends up being a sleeper steal for this Arizona Wildcats program. So I do like what I see. He's got a lot of work to do though, because it feels like there's 89 quarterbacks that are also on the roster or getting recruited. So There's an opportunity for him there for sure.
There's definitely an opportunity for him. And this also kind of goes in. One thing that I've noticed about Brennan with the kids that he's offering is he's looking for big dudes. This is a big kid. This is a big 6'4" type player. Again, not saying that he won't recruit other guys like that, but this is a guy. And again, he's from that California area, right? Very much like Robert McDaniel. And then we got another one that was just committed yesterday. Let's talk about Terry Shelton. Now, Terry Shelton, 6'4" wide receiver. Stop me if you've heard this one before, which him and Sean Robinson that just committed out of Texas, 6'4". You're going to need size to be able to replace T-Mac. Saul, you got some size right here.
Yeah, I'm interested in this because there's a theme here. Yeah. And obviously the bigger receivers is the theme. Sheldon, to me, Sheldon is a little bit behind
Robinson.
Robinson, because I don't feel like he has the top end speed quite to that degree. And his route running needs a little bit of polishing, but he's a good athlete, 6'4". He's going to build. You're just, again, you're banking on the promise. And I feel like that's 95% of these kids. Like none of them are sure things. None of them are going to be like no doubt prospects that are going to take you to a national title. So the development part of this is the biggest key. They have the tools, they have the measurables. That's the most important part. Now, can they put everything else together to see it grow? Yes. This kid, I feel like there's some things that are easily fixable and will be polished by the time he gets on the field for U of A. So you like what he brings to the table.
And you can't teach height. I know this very, very well. Now, Glenn was saying the other day that Mike Luke probably needs a booster seat when he goes to Chicken and Pickle. That was very mean about you, Glenn. I did not find that funny. Actually, it was very funny. But you can't recruit guys that look like me because I cannot get taller. But guess what? These guys that are 6'4", like Saul Bookman, they can get stronger. I cannot get taller. That is the difference.
6'2".
Oh, dude, come on,
6'2".
This guy right here, calling him, whenever I give this guy kudos, he always diminishes it a little bit. Saul, take the compliment. 6'4".
You can't teach the measurables. And again, these kids are going into their last year of high school, so they could grow even a little bit more, right, which is scary to think. 6'5", 6'6". You haven't seen stuff like that since remember the Moore guys out in Virginia?
Oh, yeah. Herman Moore?
Herman Moore and Sean Moore.
Detroit Lions.
Yeah, Detroit Lions, and Herman Moore was 6'6", 6'7", or whatever. Like, he was phenomenal. So the size is the thing that's just, I don't know if it's not because of Noah,
right?
Because Noah might not be here,
right? Now,
you know what I mean? Because he might end up going pro, and then what? And then you have 2 6'4" quarterbacks back there. Right. You have 6'4" wide receivers. You just recruited a tight end. They like the big boys.
Do you remember that the Detroit Lions actually had with those Barry Sanders teams? They actually had a very nice troika at wide receiver. You mentioned Herman Moore. Can you name the other two, Saul Bookman?
Mel Gray was a punt returner.
Yeah. Barry Sanders was the running back. He was good.
Oh, man, I couldn't tell you the other receivers at all.
Johnny Morton and Brett Perriman.
Oh, Perriman.
Yep, exactly. Do you remember the quarterback?
Yeah, Scott Mitchell.
Yes, Scott Mitchell parlayed
lefty.
Lefty parlayed one good season into a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's the American way there. We very much like Scott Mitchell. Scott Mitchell also strikes me as the guy that goes to Circle K because he gets.
Yes.
Now, listen, when you watch Scott Mitchell, you're like, man, that guy got paid and he knows what he's doing, just like Circle K. I went to Circle K earlier today, Saul Bookman. Guess what I got? I got one of these long Slim Jims like Jacob Franklin. I saw munching on one. I took one of these as well from his office, and I got one at Circle K as well. But guess what? Since I'm part of the Inner Circle, I got some very, very good deals as well on gas. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply. Visit CircleK.com for details. Saul, I would assume you're going to Circle K today. This is true.
I have to because I have to go down to Tucson today. So,
ooh, very, very nice. Saul Bookman will be gassing up at Circle K. Do you have the Circle K in mind, or are you just going to play it by ear?
I mean, I'll probably hit this one on 7th Street since it's here in Central Phoenix. I'll hit it up and then I'll make my way down the I-10.
All right. Now, One other player that I also assume at Circle K, very good stuff. Check it out. One other player that I also assume goes to Circle K because he went there. Kellan Ford. This is a player that I think we need to talk about quickly as well. Tight end, highest rated player in the class, borderline 4-star tight end. Saul, this coaching staff, one thing that they said time and time and time again is that they are going to use the tight end. They are, and I love using the tight end. What say you?
I love it. I mean, hell, we begged for it forever. Jed Fish finally started to use it last year. He implemented Tanner McLaughlin. Sorry, Taylor. Sure. Tanner McLaughlin. And listen, like that made a lot of sense. Like to have a big guy out there, be able to block, but then also be able to route run is just so imperative in today's college game, because you can't just rely on 4 wides or 5 wides every single time, especially in the Big 12, because there is a nice little mix of run and pass in the Big 12. Now, it's predominantly pass. Don't get me wrong. It's probably about a 60-40 split, but there are some teams out there that will run the ball a lot, and you've got to be prepared for that, and you got to match that physicality as well, because you got to keep the way everybody was talking about the defense, right? Everybody's worried about the defense. Like, is the defense going to be able to hold up? Blah, 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 blah. One way you help the defense is what, Mike?
Right.
Run the ball.
Run the ball.
Run the clock a little bit. You know, you could score 40 points a game, but if you have the ball for 40 minutes a game, that's even better.
Yeah.
So why not do that? And I think that's what this coaching staff is looking to do, is just beef up and get bigger, stronger, and try to dominate.
Trust the coaching staff again. Like we say, when you win 7 games, 8 games, 6 games at San Jose State, that is not an easy task. So, yes. Now, also, no better time to become a PHNX diehard. Here's why. The Discord chat is popping off, as the kids would say, and all kinds of really good stuff, breaking some news in there as well. And Saul, you guys got some trips lined up coming up, if I'm not mistaken. This is true.
Yeah. Got a trip to Miami going on for the Cardinals, so you can become a diehard and join that trip. It's going to be a fun time down at South Beach. I'll be there. Johnny, Bo, the whole Cardinals crew will be down there. It'll be a fun time. Drinks, tailgates. We got a booze cruise going on. Come out, hang out in the ocean with us. It'll be fun. And I'll buy you a couple of drinks.
And I'm sure there's Circle K's there as well in Florida. You can take some
definitely Circle K's in Florida for sure.
Yes, exactly.
But outside of that, listen, we got events going on all the time. We have a pool party next month at the Diamondbacks, which is already sold out. That sold out within, I think, a week. And we have just a bunch of other cool stuff. So go to gophnx.com/events. Check out the events closest to you. And the more U of A diehards we get, the more we will do U of A related events for you guys. So, but we need support to make sure that, when we put all the time and effort into these events to put them together, that it's going to be worthwhile, and not from a lucrative standpoint, because we really don't give a shit about making that much money over here on this side. I will say that most of our events right now, we break even. Why? Because the only thing that matters is taking care of our community. That's all. That's it.
The community, that is what it is about. By the way, Saul, you got a nice little getaway. This is true coming up here.
Yeah, I got a vacation.
I do have one request for you, because where's it going to be?
If there's a Circle K,
all I wanted,
somewhere in the middle of the Caribbean.
St. Thomas has a Circle K. I already looked.
Do they really?
Yes, I believe St. Thomas does have a Circle K.
If I see it, Mike, I will take a picture. I'm not going to go out of my way.
We will ask you to drive 2 hours.
No, because Mama is not having that. But if I see it, I will take a picture.
And can you real time it on Twitter then?
1,000,000%. Of course, I'll real time it.
That's all we ask for. That's all we ask for. All right. All right.
Got to back the K, baby.
Yeah, back the K, baby. That's how it rolls around here. All right. We got Ryan Hansen coming on tomorrow. Talk a little Arizona basketball. What does that guy know? Then I will be jetting up to Phoenix. But for the boss, Saul Bookman, the great Jacob Franklin behind the scenes, I am merely Mike Luke. You guys are fantastic. Very much appreciate all of you. We'll be back with you tomorrow. You have been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.